Hey everyone, we're back and we're ready to talk about Bathsheba again today. And I think I have things in better order today, I hope. Before we begin, everyone, I hope you know that you are loved. And if you do not know, tell me how we can fix that, okay? Because everyone should know. And a lot of people don't realize that. So everyone out there is loved. And I hope you feel it. But here's some background on Bathsheba for today. Joshua Spooner was born in 1741. Bathsheba Ruggles in February 1746. So they're only 5 years apart. They're married January 1766. Have their first child April 1767. 3 more children are born in the next 5 years, although the second son, John, dies a few weeks after birth. In those years, they're right before the Revolution. And it's an elegant 2-story house in Brookfield, Massachusetts. They're considered wealthy by their neighbors. However, it was common knowledge that the marriage is not happy, and that Bathsheba has developed feelings of what was to characterize as an utter aversion towards her husband. The reasons for the rift are not fully known, but records indicate that Joshua Spooner was frequently drunk and sometimes physically abusive of his wife, and was also a weak manager of his household and affairs. Bathsheba, on the other hand, was independent, strong-willed, and impetuous. So she wasn't playing around, and it kind of sounds like he was. I don't know. I'm imagining, like I said last time, there's a lot of things that she hid from her children. And who else was there to ask after her death about what had happened in that household? So let's move from that to the lives, last words, and dying speech of Ezra Ross, James Buchanan, and William Brooks, who were executed on Thursday, the 2nd day of July, 1778, for the murder of Joshua Spooner of Brookfield. Bathsheba Spooner, who was convicted of being accessory to the murder, was also executed at the same time. So all 4, same day. And before I read this, guys, this was written in 1778. So there's probably going to be some dated language or maybe some terms that we don't use today. I don't know. I have not read this whole thing yet, guys. I'm sorry about that. I should have checked it first. I'm just kind of winging it. I, James Buchanan, was a sergeant in the army under General Burgoyne, born in Glasgow, Scotland, aged 36 years. I, William Brooks, was a private in said army, born in the parish of Winsbury, in the county of Stafford in England, aged 27. We together, on February 8, 1778, left Worcester with an intent to go to Springfield to work. In passing Mr. Spooner's, we were called in by Alexander Cummings, whom we thought was a British soldier. Having something, there's some dots like where words are missing or something. Having some time by the fire, he told us his master was gone from home, but he would go and call his mistress, for she had a great regard for the army, as her father was in it and one of her brothers. So you guys remember, Bathsheba's dad was an important person in the British Army, and he was very loyal to the king. He left the country to avoid fighting in the war. So she was probably very sympathetic with her father and, like I said, her brother. So, of course, her friend sees these 2 soldiers, and he's like, hang on, let me go get her. She's going to enjoy meeting you. So he called her, and she came down and appeared glad to see us. She asked us whether we came from the hill. We told her we had, and were going to Canada, as I, Buchanan, had left my family there. She ordered breakfast for us, and as soon as it was ready, we were desired to go into the sitting room. We were very much surprised at this, for we should have thought ourselves well dealt by, to receive any favor she might see fit to bestow, in the kitchen. However, we all breakfasted together. The weather being very bad, we were asked to stay till it cleared up. As we had little money, we accordingly stayed. The weather continued very bad. We stayed there that day and night. I, Buchanan, had no positive whether it was the first or second day. She told me by ourselves that she and her husband did not agree. Sorry, I got to staple these. That he was gone a journey to Princetown, and that he would not be at home soon, that we should not go from thence until the weather was fair, there being a great fall of snow at this time. We very readily consented, and stayed from day to day, expecting Mr. Spooner home. Mrs. Spooner, getting very freely in discourse with me, Buchanan, one day, told me that she never expected Mr. Spooner to return, as there was one Mr. Ross gone with him, who had an ounce of poison, which he had promised her he would give to Mr. Spooner the first convenient opportunity. The reader must needs think this a very strange circumstance, that she should make such a discovery to an entire stranger. She said at the same time, we should stay till we saw whether Mr. Spooner returned or not. Accordingly we stayed, and were never in better quarters, little thinking of the bag the seducer of souls was laying for us. We were then in a disposition to catch at it, having no fear of God before, entirely to ken of him. My cat is trying to get in the drawer over there. It is really cute, guys. I'm sorry. Having tarried 10 or 11 days, as near can be recalled, he at length came home, and seeing us there, asked her who we were. She told him that I was cousin to Alexander Cummings. He took no further notice of it, but going out among his neighbors, it is likely he was informed how long we had been here, and probably heard at the tavern of the quantity of liquor he had to pay for, since going on his journey. Be that as it may, at night he came home. Gemma just brought a folder out of the drawer she was trying to get into. Let me shut that real quick. Gemma! Be that as it may, at night he came home, and seeing we were not gone, he desired us to go immediately. We begged he would let us stay till morning. He after some time consented that we should stay by there all night. He was in the sitting room by himself, and Mrs. Spooner went to bed. There was one Reuben Old came up on some business with Mr. Spooner, and after some time come out and told us that Mr. Spooner told him he was afraid we should rob him, adding that he had lost a silver spoon and a great deal of pewter. This vexed us, as we were conscious we had no thought of stealing from him. Had we been so inclined, we had as much opportunity as we could have desired. The spoon he found where he laid it. Cummings convinced him there was none of the pewter missing. Mr. Spooner went upstairs and brought down a box, which had his money in, and lay down on the floor with it under his head. Everything Mr. Spooner did or said, Old came and told us, and was out with us all the time he was asleep, and we were all merry together, sitting by the kitchen fire. Said Old declared in court that I, Buchanan, said, if Mr. Spooner came out, I would for 2 coppers put him in the well, which is false. In the morning, it not being convenient to see Mrs. Spooner to take our leave of her, we Buchanan, Brooks, and Cummings went to Mrs. Stratton's to pass the day, till we could get an opportunity to bid Mrs. Spooner farewell. We stayed at Mrs. something the best part of the day, Cummings having received $5 from Mr. Spooner to treat his pretended cousin with when we went to Mr. Cooley's tavern and had some drink. From thence to Dr. Foxcroft's. Stayed there until Cummings came and told us Mr. Spooner was in bed. We then went to the house and had supper and liquor, retired to the barn, and tarried all night. Hang on a second. So these guys have been staying at Mr. Spooner's house on his dime, drinking and eating, and basically using the servants or whatever at their free will, with Bathsheba there at okaying it, for about 2 weeks before her husband gets there. And when husband goes to town and figures out how much these guys have spent and how long they've been there, he is upset, comes home, and is paranoid all night thinking about it. The next day, these 2 soldiers leave the house, go to the tavern, and drink. Okay. In the morning, we had breakfast sent to the barn for us, and as Mrs. Berry and Mrs. Tufts had been there the day before, we went to and wanted to see me, Buchanan. I said I would go and see them. Mrs. Spooner said she would also go, which was agreed on. Buchanan and Brooks went there, and we all stayed at Mr. Green's drinking till late. Some distance from thence, she said she had given a handkerchief to a British soldier that had some words in anger with me, Buchanan, upon which Brooks went back to her horse, and she and I went home. Brooks missed his road on his return, but got to the house some time after us, but did not get the handkerchief, as the soldier would not deliver it until he saw Mrs. Spooner. Buchanan and Brooks stayed that night in the barn. In the morning went to Gilbert's Tavern. Why did it just shift tense there, guys? Why did they just talk about themselves in the third person? This confession does not make sense. Buchanan and Brooks stayed that night in the barn. In the morning went to Gilbert's Tavern and stayed there some time. And on coming out from the house, we saw Cummings coming on one of Mr. Spooner's horses. He told us his master was gone to the tavern, and that his mistress desired we would come there, which we did, and had supper. We went to the barn that night, and in the morning she sent word that her husband was gone abroad into the country to get some oats. The boy Parker had promised to Brooks would come and meet Mr. Spooner and him on their return. He said Parker would he go help to take Mr. Spooner's life. We went over from the barn to the house, and found he was gone, and stayed there all day, and lived on the best the house afforded of meat and drink. Mr. Spooner came home in the dusk of the evening, so that we had like to have been seen, but we heard him come with the key by the door, and Brooks ran into the cellar, and I went and stood on the back stairs until he went into the sitting room. We then came out and went to the barn. There stayed all next day, and at night, when Mr. Spooner was in bed, we were sent for to the house, and received supper and liquor to encourage another plan, which Cummings and Parker, who have for this time escaped punishment, proposed to poor Brooks, which was, they all three go upstairs, and Brooks to take his life from him, for which he was to receive $1,000, Mr. Spooner's watch, his buckles, and as much cloth as would make a suit of clothes. But Brooks' heart failed him, and Mrs. Spooner said she did not think he was so faint-hearted. Had this been done, he was to be put into the well as he was taken out of bed, for she observed it would be thought he had fallen in, drawing water in the night. Next day had breakfast brought us by Cummings. He informed us there was another plan formed by her, which was to have been executed as follows: either Cummings or Parker to tell Mr. Spooner one of his horses was sick, and as he came to the barn to kill him, and put him amongst the horses' feet, to make the people believe when he was found that the horses had killed him. But Brooks told Parker not to tell him, but to make her believe he would not go over. The boy conducted accordingly. We stayed all that day and night. Next day being Sunday, we stayed there. She came over at night. We told her we would go away the next morning. She desired we would not, but we would not stay. We set out to go to Springfield. As we went through Western on that road, we engaged to work with one Mr. Marks, a smith. I, Buchanan, worked there 2 days, but as he had no files fit for the something, Brooks followed. We proposed to go to Worcester to get some, which was agreed to. We set off on Wednesday about noon, and in going by Mr. Spooner's, we called in and told her where we were going. She said she would follow us next day, as she wanted to see her sister, saying she was glad we had got work so near, and further added that she had 2 notes, one of £20 lawful, and another of $300, which she would and get changed, and let me, Buchanan, have $100 to purchase anything I might want. We stayed in the barn till morning, and then set out for Worcester, and she followed us the next day, and called at Mrs. Walker's. Us, according to agreement, she came in and stayed some, and gave me, Buchanan, a note, as much cloth as made a shirt, and $6 or $7. Observing to me they came from one MacDonald, an acquaintance of mine. She then went to see her sister, and desired us to stay till she came back, which we did. She returned on Friday morning about 10 o'clock, and stayed till night. She told me, Buchanan, at parting, that she had no paper money but what she had given me, but begged I would procure her some poison to give Mr. Spooner. I accordingly that day got 1 drach of calomel, and made it into 2 papers. I desired her to give 1 in the morning. She told she never gave him any. She went to her sister's late that night, and called on us in the morning about 10 o'clock. I went to the door. She would not come in, but desired me to come to Mr. Nesro's shop, and she would get files for her not money sufficient to get what we wanted. She asked when we would come through Brookfield. I told her if we'd set up, we would call on Monday night at 11 o'clock. She said she would. I parted with her and sent Brooks up to the shop, but as he came in sight, he saw her ride from the door and therefore did not go there. We stayed at Walker's until Sunday afternoon and then left Worcester, and about 8 o'clock at night got to Mr. Spooner's. We saw Mrs. Stratton at the well. I. Buchanan spoke to her. She told me there was company in the house, but she would let Mrs. Spooner know we were there. Mrs. Spooner came out and told us that one Mr. Ross was in the house, who had a brace of pistols loaded, and that he had promised her he would kill Mr. Spooner as he came home from the tavern. She desired us to come in, which we did. He showed us a pistol and said Mr. Spooner should die by that night. Either Brooks or Buchanan said it would alarm the neighbors. Brooks said if Ross would help him, he would knock him down. Accordingly, it was agreed on, and there was a lookout kept at the sitting room door for his coming. In the meantime, there was some supper brought by Mrs. Stratton to us. We had some before. There was now some rum brought, which we drank, each of us by turns giving a lookout. We're certain Mrs. Stratton could not but know what was going forward. That we leave to the judgment of the public. Mr. Spooner was at length seen coming, and then was the time for the devil to show his power over sinners who had forsaken God. William Brooks went out and stood within the small gate leading into the kitchen, and as Mr. Spooner came past him, he knocked him down with his hand. He strove to speak when down. Brooks then took him by the throat and partly strangled him. Ross and Buchanan came out. Ross took Mr. Spooner's watch out and gave it to Buchanan. Brooks and Ross took him up and put him into the well head first. Before they carried him away, I, Buchanan, pulled off his shoes. I was instantly struck with horror of conscience, as well I might. I went into the house and met Mrs. Spooner in the sitting room. She seemed vastly confused. She went immediately up and brought the money, which was in a box. She, not having the key, desired me to break it open, which I did. At the same time, Brooks and Ross came in. She gave 2 notes of $400 each to Ross to change and give the money to Brooks, but there was found some paper money, which Brooks received, being $243, and the notes were returned. At the same time, she gave Ross 4 notes, each of them £10, to purchase camlet for a riding dress. Ross gave Brooks his waistcoat, breeches, and shirt. She went and brought Ross a waistcoat, breeches, and shirt of Mr. Spooner's. When they were shifted, she gave me, Buchanan, 3 $8 bills, and asked me when she should see me again. I told her in 14 days, but it pleased God to order it sooner, and in a dreadful situation. Had we all been immediately struck dead after the perpetrating so horrid a murder and sent to hell, God would have been justified, and we justly condemned. About 11 o'clock at night, we set off for Worcester. About 4 in the morning, we reached Mrs. Walker's house. Mary Walker and a girl were there. We told them a parcel of lies to excuse our sudden return. In the morning, we went to drinking, to endeavor to drown the horrid action we had been guilty of. We tarried there all day, with a view to go off at night, but it pleased God to order it otherwise. Brooks, being in liquor, went down to Mr. Brown's tavern, there showing Mr. Spooner's watch, and the people, seeing him have silver buckles, became suspicious of him. And one Ensign Clark, going to Mrs. Walker's, and seeing what passed there, gave information concerning us. The news of the murder had now reached the town, and we were all taken and brought to trial before the committee, examined and committed to jail. On the 24th of April last, we were brought to trial before the Superior Court, found guilty, and received death sentence. All right, y'all. Did y'all catch that? Let me back up a minute. For one, we know these soldiers have been in and out of Bathsheba's house and barn for the last 3 weeks or month. They've been making the place their home. They've been eating and drinking at will, whatever they wish. And now Mr. Spooner is home, and he's very paranoid and upset about that. What have you been doing with these soldiers? And no doubt he's hearing rumors around town. So I'm not seeing anything about... Let me phrase this correctly. You remember how he stayed up all night with that money under his head because he was paranoid? And the next day those soldiers went out drinking. So it was just Joshua and his wife in the house. Maybe with the children, maybe there's servants or such there, I don't know. None of that's recorded for us. All we can go on is what likely happened. What is the most likely scenario here? And that is that he was up all night, worried, and he, as soon as those men left, I'm sure he took that frustration out on his wife. If he already had a reputation for being a little unsavory with her, how worse is it going to be when he knows that two soldiers that she would be sympathetic for and are their age, like you saw, 36 and 26. Joshua is 36. Bathsheba is 32. Ezra Ross is only 16. He is a kid, and he has already fought for George Washington. So he is just a kid that happened to become entangled in this drama. But since Bathsheba had nursed him back to health when he was ill after fighting, I'm sure he looked up to her. I'm sure he loved her as a role model. So why was this the day that Ezra Ross had a brace of pistols loaded and had promised he would kill Mr. Spooner as he came home from the tavern? What made it happen on this particular day? I would guess that Ezra just got some kind of news from Bathsheba. Maybe they're sitting around as friends, and she tells him that as much as she hates her husband and despises the very thought of him, he has made her pregnant again. And do you think the thought of that would make Ezra load a pistol? Knowing that unsavory type was harming a lovely woman, a lovely, kind hostess of a woman that sounds like she just cared about the people around her and took great care of those soldiers in her barn because they reminded her of her dad and brother. So she thought they were her friends, and she was wrong. She trusted the wrong people. Let's learn from her, guys. I'm sorry to go off track. Sorry, I'm trying to see how long we've been going. It's not showing me. But we still have the Robert Treat Paine Papers, Volume 4. This is the trial notes. I don't think we have time for that today, guys. I think we're going to have to read this tomorrow because just the confession took this long. But if I could leave you with a thought, choose your friends wisely. Just because they remind you of someone that you know and love does not mean they have the same character. Do not let your emotions cloud your judgment. Because I know we're all guilty of that. We have all had a friend that betrayed us, or maybe somebody that hurt our feelings even. So, just, you can't control their actions. All you can do is be better. Be better. It doesn't bother you because those are just words. Okay? If they physically try to harm you, please call someone. If you don't trust the police, call someone you trust. If there's no one you can trust, call the police. I'm sorry, but that's the society we live in. Those are our choices. But we all need to make wise ones as best we can, okay? and as best we can help each other. And whether that's just saying, hey, I like your hair today, or hey, how are you doing? You look kind of sad. You know, we all need to look out for each other. Because if we don't, who will?